Let's go. I'm going to be very excited about this game. Austin Simmons got knocked out of it. Ole Miss ends up winning the game 30-23, and this year's team won a game that last year's team would have absolutely lost. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We're reacting to Ole Miss's 30-23 win over Kentucky, a game that Ole Miss actually outscored Kentucky 30-13 over the last three quarters. They ran the ball extremely well. They put up some yards on this Kentucky defense that's actually pretty good. They are one of the better defensive fronts that Ole Miss is going to see, and Ole Miss kind of pushed them around. So all the stories that you've heard about the offensive line being problematic, they may have been overblown just a little bit because they really took over that game in the second half and led the way with Kewan Lacy starting out. Now, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member. We're talking about Ole Miss getting a big win, a game that they would have lost a year ago, a game that they did lose a year ago against the Kentucky Wildcats. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen, and please give us a like, subscribe, and comment on your way out. Check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is available. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season's right around the corner tomorrow. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets. Now, I'm pretty excited about what was going on. I'm not excited about how it ended with Austin going down and they taking him in the tent. And it was a very nervy couple of moments that I was getting text messages from the Locked On host that were watching the games and everything. Is like, can Ole Miss beat Arkansas with Trinidad Chambliss? And that was something that I was thinking of. Then you see Austin Simmons come out of the tent. He's relatively good spirits. Trinidad Chambliss takes his package. They go straight down the field, kick a field goal to go up 2 scores, which they needed to do. And you find out from Lane Kiffin after the game that Austin Simmons could have come back in if he needed to. And actually, he did go back in for a kneel down at the end of the game. We saw a video from Michael Katz, friend of the program, Michael Katz, talking about Austin Simmons walking off the field, and there was little or no limp. So I think he is going to be okay. He is going to be all right. And that's the story of this game. That's what's going to happen. You know, Lane is going to play games with all of this. With the quarterback being injured, is it going to be Trinidad? Is it going to be Austin? All of that. Get ready for next week. It's absolutely going to happen. That said, Austin looked like a quarterback at the end of the game that was going to be all right, and maybe he just got scared a little bit going off the field, not putting weight on there. Now, once he flies and all of that stuff, it could swell up. I expect he's going to be on a walking boot. You're going to hear about that over the next couple of days. But I think he is going to be all right. Now, either way, Austin Simmons just made it to where Trinidad Chambliss is absolutely going to have a package against the Arkansas Razorbacks. You want a running quarterback, you want all of that stuff. He's going to have a package. And that's important because there's a couple of points in this game that I want to talk about. First off, Lane absolutely played the game the way that he coached the Georgia game a year ago. Not willy-nilly going for it, kicking field goals, doing what needed to be done for a road game, and they were pretty good because of it. They ended up winning the game. Every possession ending with a kick, you win the game. Against Arkansas, every possession ending with a kick, you win the game. The critique I have for Lane Kiffin is you have a sample size now with Austin Simmons in his first scrimmage, his first spring game, his first home start, his first road start, that there's a sample size that he starts slow. 2 interceptions today against Kentucky. last week, 2 interceptions for his home opener. He struggled in the first scrimmage where he was the guy. There's enough of a sample size that you need to take that into account. You need to make it to where it is easy for him. He is a supremely talented quarterback and can make all of the throws, but you can't willy-nilly go at confidence. Screen passes, some hitches, and all of that stuff to get going during the game. The same thing that we saw in the second quarter, the Ole Miss offense kind of tied the Kentucky defense up in knots. That could have happened in the first quarter, avoided a couple interceptions, and that game was 31-7, 31-10 at the end of the game. That is my only critique from that. Now, there was one possession that the defense just didn't quite kind of look right. That was the possession that the Kentucky made it 20-20. That one was a little bit weird. Other than that, they played fine. No explosive runs, all of that stuff. I was relatively impressed with the way that they handled their business. This is a big win. This is an SEC road victory against a team that beat you a year ago. Now, granted, they shouldn't have beat you a year ago, but they did. And this was a game with plenty of adversity that Ole Miss last year would have rolled over. Ole Miss last year would have struggled to find a plan B. If plan A didn't work, if the happened with the offense didn't work, all of a sudden, they couldn't find a plan B. This team found a plan B when plan A didn't work. When they started the game with the Mark Stoops trap stuff, throwing the ball downfield and 2 interceptions happened, they changed what they were doing. And they did it to where 2 out of the running game had like 48 carries and 24 passes in there. It was 2-to-1 run to pass. It was a massive 67% running game. Kewan Lacy is the best offensive player on this team, maybe Trey Willis, honestly. But I think they can be very good moving forward. They can, especially if you dodge the bullet with Austin Simmons. Against the Arkansas Razorbacks, now you have Arkansas, Tulane, LSU, and Washington State. 4 games at home. You need a 4-0 in the homestand. And we all saw that Clemson's not very good. They're just not. They are struggling with Troy. They're not that. There's nobody on Ole Miss's schedule that they can't beat. Georgia isn't Georgia of 2 years ago. They're still good. They still have good players, but they can be gotten if you take care of yourself. Can't have this slow start thing over and over again. It needs to be a situation to where you put it all together over the course of a game. If you put this game together, you play the first quarter like the last 3 quarters, you probably win it 45-10 or something like that. That is the explosiveness of this Ole Miss team. The way it is with the interceptions and the short fields, that made a 30-23 game and what would have been without them like 30-10. Short fields hangs your defense out to dry. They played pretty well, and we'll see what happens. Also, it's a very weird thing to look at with Zach Calzada and Austin Simmons being knocked out of the football game. So it was very weird at the end. Okay, in the third segment, we're going to take your comments. I want to know what you're thinking on there as well. Be sure to put where you're commenting from. I do want to shout you out for that. But when we come back, we will go over the stats of the game, which is actually pretty impressive, and we'll look at some stuff like that before we take your comments, because Ole Miss actually, they played pretty well. They really did. So we'll see what you're talking about a little bit later. All right. All right, it is the weekend, and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP. Who delivered, powered by DoorDash? Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break all of that down. For Ole Miss, Kewan Lacy had 130-something yards rushing and a touchdown, and a big play in the 4-minute offense that was severely missing in last season's team. You saw that they have pieces that last year's team did not have. The question becomes, are they as good as last year, or are they not as good? We'll find that out over the next couple of weeks. When the pressure was on, he came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you're a ball knower, he's wanting to put it together. That's 100-yard game. He is looking to put a streak together. And just like Kewan Lacy delivered for the Ole Miss Rebels against the Kentucky Wildcats, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period goes through November 18th. Mazda crafts cars who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. What makes Mazda stand out? They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. An athlete focuses on every single detail. Mazda does the same, from metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. You can feel it in the moment you get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, the standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes everyday drives feel special. It's the small details that makes the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Do us a favor, like and subscribe and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast. Do the audio podcast catcher as well. Give it a 5-star review if you don't mind. It costs nothing, but it helps keep all of this free. And if you want more, join the Insiders program in the subtext link below. No trolls, 14-day free trial, and the easiest way to cancel. Give it a try. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is ready for you. All right, so let's look at the stats real quick in this game before we start taking your conversations in the chat. Remember, if you chat, please put where you're commenting from so we can shout that out during that period as well. Ole Miss ended up winning the game 30-23. They had 20 first downs, 222 yards rushing. They had 90 yards rushing a year ago. And a running back only rushed for 50 yards in that game. They had 235 yards passing. That's about what they had a year ago, but it wasn't the same thing because Trey Harris had 11 catches for like 175 yards. Ole Miss ended up with 457 yards. The 2 first quarter turnovers made this game a lot closer than it actually was. Kentucky had 16 first downs, 191 yards rushing, 69 passing, 359 in total offense. That may actually be last week's number. Okay. They didn't have a lot either way. So we'll see exactly how it goes. Now, whenever you look at Ole Miss and their stats, you have Kewan Lacy having a big game. He legitimately had a big game. Let me bring this up because I accidentally shut this window. Sorry about that. But Ole Miss and Kewan Lacy had a pretty big game this weekend. And trying to bring this up, Mississippi State's leading against Arizona State at the moment. A game that a lot of us kind of pointed as an upset possibility. State was going to always get somebody, and it looks like they are going to get Arizona State potentially. Austin Simmons was 13-24, 235 yards. Kewan Lacy, 28 carries, 138 yards, nearly 5-yard average. He had 1 touchdown as well. Trinidad Chambliss was in there as a running game as well. Deuce Alexander kind of did the Elijah Moore stuff that we saw from 2020 with lining up in the backfield and kind of doing different in this game. So that's something to monitor moving forward. Deuce Alexander is a weapon. Harrison Wallace was the leading receiver, 4 catches, 117 yards. Deuce Wallace, 4 catches, 68 yards. Trace Bruckler was the leading tight end, 2 catches, 29 yards. Stribling, Caden Lee, and Kewan Lacy all had one catch for less than 10 yards as well. This is a game that was in pretty good shape for Ole Miss moving forward, and I like where they ended up in this game. Anyway, all right, when we come back, we are going to go to your questions in the chat. Sorry about all of that. We'll talk about that in just a second. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Hey, Locked On Ole Miss fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump. Use my limited time promo code, really super creative, football, and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 per year just by buying the gas that you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it is totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out at any time to your bank account, PayPal, or even get an e-gift card to Amazon or other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app and use my limited time promo code, football, for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code, football. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with can't-miss offers. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in as the action unfolds. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, let's go straight into the chat room. Thank you for hanging out today. All of that, we got a lot of great stuff. I'm going back up to the top. So if you started in the beginning, you can see how it is. Jim Crawford says, good to get the win. That was a big win for Ole Miss. It was a road game. Now, Ole Miss has 2 games outside of the state of Mississippi on the road the rest of the season, and they are back-to-back against Georgia and Oklahoma. So it's pretty interesting. Somebody says it wasn't pretty. As a matter of fact, it was ugly, but it was a win. To me, I thought we left with more questions than answers. No, not really. The answer that you got in this game is that this team can handle adversity better than last year's team. Last year's team, when this game happens, they lose it. You don't believe me? They did lose it. And whenever you look at what this team can do moving forward, I think this game was an absolute positive in every sense of the word. The offensive line completely took over. You know, they didn't give up a sack over the course of the game. They ran the ball for 222 yards on Kentucky's home field against an SEC defense. This wasn't Georgia State. This was an SEC defense. I think you should be very, very encouraged. And Austin Simmons, Ole Miss dodged a bullet on the injury with Austin Simmons. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Brandon Cole, we seem to travel a good bit, a lot of red. Yeah, they were expecting to win and they hit the road, honestly. Gary Grizzard said, will Austin Simmons be okay? Looks like it. Lane Kiffin said that he could have went back in the game, but they wanted to use Trinidad in a separate package because they were doing some 4-minute offense type stuff. Austin Simmons was back in for the final kneel down. I am expecting Lane Kiffin to play games with Austin Simmons for the Arkansas game. This is an injury report game, so don't freak out whenever he's listed as questionable on Wednesday. But Austin Simmons looked like he was kind of ready to go. We'll check it out. I have a pretty good source on that one, so we'll see exactly how that looks moving forward. Very questionable third down play calling is what had him hurt. Yeah, it was bad luck. It wasn't the fact that it got run. It was the fact that it was just bad luck, honestly. The way that players were on the ground and all of that caused him to land in a funny direction. He's going to be okay, I think. Dion Gaither says Kentucky held all night. Yeah, they kind of did. Mark Covington Chambliss looks great. Yeah, Trinidad Chambliss is a good quarterback. He could beat Arkansas if he had to play. I don't think he will. He has the talent to beat Arkansas. And with Kewan Lacy might be the best offensive player on Ole Miss's team as it sits right now. That's back-to-back 100-yard games, and now you're playing a team that on defensively, the defensive line and defensively, they shouldn't be as good as what you just saw. And you're playing them at home. And you have Tulane and all of that stuff, so we'll see exactly what's going on. Brian Wesley, the center and the right guard. The first snap, there was a bad snap that led to the interception, the first interception. The right guard is fine. The offensive line played well. Anybody that thinks the offensive line didn't play well in this game, they have an agenda to say that the offensive line didn't play well. The offensive line played well. No sacks given up, and they ran the ball for 222 yards on another SEC team's home field. So I'm not into the whole junk thing on that one. Michael Reed says, very proud about how they played today. Lots of adversity that they overcame and showed they can win a game without scoring 14-point touchdowns. I do think Kentucky will give a lot of teams fits this year. Yeah, there's a rock fight. And in the first quarter, Lane Kiffin had the same game plan that they used against Kentucky last year. It was the ability to change midstream and to make it work is the reason they were successful moving forward. I mean, that's a big thing. Lane Kiffin against Kentucky on the road coached the game like Nick Saban. Pump the ball, kick the field goals. Don't go for it on fourth down unless you absolutely have to, or you have a play that you feel really good about. It was fantastic. It was everything that we wanted to see. Whenever we do our end of the show thing of analytics being the old English word meaning bad football, we wanted to see an Ole Miss game where they coached like this. Because it was a situation where if Ole Miss just ended every possession with a kick, they blow the game out. They had a better team. They played like a favorite the last three quarters, and lo and behold, 30-13. It was a good win for Ole Miss. Isaac Kessler, Charlie Weiss Jr. will single-handedly make the Rebels miss the playoffs. He made adjustments today. Now, the Ole Miss dodged a bullet with Austin Simmons, but Charlie Weiss deserves credit for making adjustments in this game. The last three quarters, Ole Miss was good. They were really good. Jerry Marshall, sorry, Steven, no way to sugarcoat this. We look bad. That's not true at all. Not even a little bit. Ole Miss outscored Kentucky 30-13 in the last three quarters. They started poorly. I will give you that by having the game plan that made Austin Simmons struggle. But the second, third, and fourth quarter, they dominated. They took over on the line of scrimmage. They did not give up a sack. Kentucky couldn't do much offensively. They looked fine. We got Michael Reed saying play calling can be better when you have the lead in the fourth quarter. Maybe don't call three runs up the middle. No, I appreciate that, honestly. The only way that Kentucky could win the game is if you help them. Lane had made the point to not help Kentucky. Not in a situation where you couldn't do it. He had confidence in his run game to do it. Like I said, it was bad luck. It was literally bad luck on the Austin Simmons thing. But you dodged a bullet on that one. And I think that means that Trinidad Chambliss is going to have a little bit more of a package moving forward. Fate says, dirty game, but at least we won, unlike Florida. That was hilarious. I called that game, by the way. And now it was against the spread. I didn't think that Florida was going to win by 18. I didn't think USF was going to win the game, but kind of funny that USF did. Florida has, in the next 2 weeks, they have LSU and Tiger Stadium, and they have to go to Miami. Florida is in a little bit of trouble. Why did they run Austin on that third down? Why? Because they were finding out running the quarterback off tackle, there was a hole and a softness in the Kentucky defense. It just worked. They played it. It was bad luck, essentially. But they were just trying to run the ball. On that third down, he was looking right into the sun. I'll take your word for it on that. It was rough, lucky to win. They weren't lucky to win. The first quarter was bad. The first quarter was literally bad. But the last three quarters were literally good. An SEC game on the road that you outscore the other team 30-13 over 3 periods, that's a good thing. You can build off of that. The first quarter was garbage. It was horrible. Dropping down 10-0 like that, it was bad. But Ole Miss fixed it. They overcame it. Ole Miss last year would have lost this game. I am dead serious about that. Ole Miss would have lost this game last year. Running game has definitely improved. This is from Hayden Tisdale from last year. I was pleased with Austin Simmons' poise after the rough start. I feel like it might take some time with him getting used to being the starter, and once he has. There's a sample size right now of Austin Simmons in slow starts in first road start, first home start, first scrimmage. There's a sample size. It is on Charlie Weiss Jr. It is on Lane Kiffin to account for that. And having the game plan where he's throwing the ball 40 yards downfield, 30 yards downfield, that was problematic, and he panicked a little bit. But he bounced back in the second, third, and fourth quarters and was what you would expect he would be. It was pretty good. Ole Miss ran the ball 2/3 of the time in this game, and it worked. It was awesome. Javon Campbell says Kiffin is going to get Simmons hurt. Maybe, honestly. I told him to channel Matt Corral. Let's not go full Matt Corral on that one, right? But yeah, I think Trinidad Chambliss is going to have a little bit of time. Go Pokes 1. Why is Suntarine Perkins only dropping into pass coverage and not pass rushing in Lexington, Kentucky? I think Ole Miss realized that the quarterback that they had, if they dropped into 8, he could not overcome a zone coverage. There was not a lot of man being played necessarily. So Suntarine ended up having to drop back. That's kind of the jack thing and the moving around and all of that. Xavion Harris, if you notice, played some 3 odd man front defensive end. So it's probably something to do with the schematic and what they wanted to do. Suntarine Perkins almost had a pick in that game. So we'll see exactly how that goes. But yeah, that's a good question. Can the center not snap the ball? He did have one bad snap that I noticed. But yes, he can snap the ball. Robert Mayfield, Wildcats can run. Yeah, a little bit. They have some talented backs. Now, it wasn't going to win this game, but they have some talented backs. Pat said 0311. Here's an idea. Let's not get conservative with run plays on third down and run Simmons on a design play to get him hurt. Weiss and Harrison need an updated and leaked in. Like I said, it was bad luck. It was just bad luck. I respect the fact that you didn't put the ball in harm's way. Yeah, seriously. Hayden Tisdale, this was a great experience for Austin to have. Once he gets some more experience underneath his belt, watch out. Yeah, I said this during the show last week. You want to play Austin in game 2 as opposed to game 7. I think he has a chance to be an elite quarterback, but he's still at the point where you can fool him. And I told you that Mark Stoops was going to fool him and he was going to bait him. And Mark Stoops wanted you to throw the ball downfield because that was his game. The 14-point touchdown that I kept talking about over and over. When Ole Miss just started playing small ball and going down the field, they took it over. They absolutely took it over. So we'll see. Robert Mayfield, we have a better running game than last year's team. Yes, definitely. Last year's team loses this game. I'm dead serious about this. Last year's team loses this game. So we'll see what happens. LSU D-line will feast on our O-line if we don't make changes fast. I don't know that LSU's D-line is good. If you want to look at Troy and Clemson right now, they're having trouble blocking Troy's defensive line. And yeah, if that's happening, they just might not be good, if that makes sense. So we'll see how it goes, but Ole Miss doesn't play LSU for 3 weeks. Again, Kentucky did not have a sack in this game. Honestly, they didn't pressure the quarterback very much in this game. So it just kind of is what it is. John Adams, why did we decide to run 3 in a row times? Because the only way that Kentucky could win the game is if you help them. So don't help them. When a team can't do it, don't make it easier for them. And putting the ball in the air and putting the ball at risk, that makes it easier for them. So just run it 3 times and punt the ball away. Now, maybe not run Austin Simmons in a game that he's that important, but yeah, I have no problem with the call because Kentucky wasn't good enough to win that game otherwise. Derek English, hard to say what we learned. Offensive sputters and defense let up some big plays by them, but held on in the end. Receivers need to play to get open. Looked like they were just running routes. They're going to be fine. Fate, I kind of want to see Harper on this line, especially if it's Sanders or Nkuda struggles again. Offensive line was fine today. You don't run the ball for 222 yards against an SEC team on the road and no sacks given up without the offensive line playing well. I get the narrative has been established about the offensive line, but it was fine. It absolutely was fine. Have you heard anything about what time is the Arkansas game? I think it is going to be a night game. I think that game is going to be at night. It's not going to be 11 o'clock. So coming from Lumberton, you have time to make it up to the game. Tanner Dodson, Simmons has to get it together. It's on Lane or Charlie Weiss to set him up. I'm telling you, you have a sample size at this point of Austin Simmons struggling at the beginning, getting it together later on, and becoming a little bit of a machine in the second half. It is on Charlie Weiss and Lane Kiffin to take care of Austin Simmons. Yeah, Austin Simmons throwing the ball downfield, that was a game plan thing. You should have called games and said, okay, we're going to throw the hitches. We're going to go short to go long. I talked about this all week. I even did a video and put it on there. This is the mistake Lane Kiffin needs to avoid, and he didn't avoid that mistake. The first quarter was exactly that mistake. But Ole Miss was able to overcome that because they were that much better than the Kentucky Wildcats. Riley Robertson said, we scored 30 on a very good defense. We'll probably be perfectly fine. The O-line honestly looked very good to me compared to last week. That's from Corinth, Mississippi. And John Adams, do we think playing in an SEC game will give Simmons more composure in future games? No more first. There's no more first conference game. There's no more first road game. There's no more first home start. Yeah, all it is just now is playing football. So I do think that you're going to be a little bit better with Austin Simmons moving forward. I think that he is learning. He is seeing what is going to happen playing the game. From the Rio Grande Valley in Texas, was it me or the tight ends really not used this game? The team is balanced well and will help later in the year. Yeah, the game plan and the game with what was going on was to take advantage of the cornerbacks and through the quick hitches. They just hitch, because Kentucky was just trying to bait you to throw the ball deep down the field. Mike Biggs says, Ole Miss can win every game this year. I think we beat LSU at home. The biggest challenge will be Oklahoma and Norman, and Georgia and Athens. Win one of those two, and we're in the playoffs. Honestly, win every other game besides those two, and you are in the playoffs. But I understand your point. If you lose both of those games, the pressure will be kind of on you as well. Mason Children, we got the dub. That's all that matters. SEC victory on the road. Breathe easy. Remember last year, Georgia beat Kentucky in Lexington 13-12. And everybody was like, oh, my gosh. It happens. Whenever you play that game, Mark Stoops is really good at making that game ugly. He is basically putting together a video resume to be the Iowa head coach in every game that he coaches. That's a road win. That's an SEC opener. They're number one in the conference. And Ole Miss has struggled to start both games this season. And you can't say Ole Miss has not scored 30 points in 27 games or whatever it is against SEC opponents, whatever that number is, because Ole Miss scored 30 on the road at Kentucky. I think this Ole Miss team has a chance to be pretty good. I'm sorry about the comments that I missed. We'll see exactly how that goes tomorrow. Please tune in for the SEC reaction show where all the hosts get together and talk about what's going on. I don't know if Brandon Olson will be there, but Florida will be pretty funny as the game goes on. So we'll see exactly how that goes. We got the dub. That's all that matters. SEC victory on the road. Pretty good stuff. So we'll see exactly how that goes. And Ole Miss beat Kentucky 30-23 in a big game. Hope everybody sleeps well and it is fun. So take care. I will see you tomorrow when we live stream on the SEC reaction live stream at about noon Central Time. So tune in for that. Take care, everybody.